What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this 14-fight MMA slate. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys want to be entered into our $25 giveaway that we announce every single Friday, please like, subscribe to the channel, and also comment your favorite GPP play for the slate. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future MMA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this MMA 14-fight slate. I have with me Kevin as always. This is going to be a great slate to break down, Kevin. But I guess first you want to start off by going ahead and talk about last week's success, or I guess not last week. This would be last weekend, literally a couple days ago.
Absolutely, yeah, that was Saturday. It's weird to think, but yeah, I know 3 fights and or 3 events in 1 week is interesting, but no, love it, absolutely love it. Going from a hiatus to three events is absolutely awesome. So yeah, let's go over the recent success. UFC Fight Night, Holloway versus Cater. What a night, Matt. Some amazing fights. Wish I could have watched all of them live. Unfortunately, had a very busy Saturday, and that 12 o'clock start was awful for me. This Wednesday start is not going to be much better. It's just like
9 a.m. By the way, everybody watching, 9 a.m. Okay.
Yep, 9 a.m. for the prelims, which is just, it doesn't make, I hate it personally. But it's, it's, at least we're getting some UFC events just because, it just doesn't, allow as much time to set lineups, all that crap. But we'll get through it. We actually had a ton of success on a Wednesday card that had a similar start time in the beginning of quarantine, Matt. I don't know if you recall that, but
long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago, but don't hate it. We can crush these. So, but yeah, running through Holloway and Cater. I think we did really good with our picks for the most part, Matt. It was one of those nights where we're profitable. Nothing to write home about. Saw more people, made money than not. No takedowns this slate, but that's okay. We had to cool off a little. I think we had a string of takedowns like 3 weeks in a row there. So going through the fights, I said Lingo and Kilburn was live. Didn't make my love list, but did greenlight it, and Lingo scored very well. Did Lingo make the optimal?
Lingo did not. Hold on. Hold that thought. Wow, was he really that close? Hold on. I want to see if this is true. So he scored 92.84. And Condit made it in at 92.96.
Okay. Good,
so yeah,
good,
I mean, almost.
Condit made my love list and Lingo didn't.
Up.
So
yeah,
so good. But I did like Lingo too. But yeah, Condit was cheaper. So that's interesting. I think it was very close. I said to fade Mello and Moraz. Very glad I did. Said to fade Amiv at his price, and again, very glad I did. He was very expensive. Didn't like him at there.
You did, yeah.
Yep, it was not. I did not like that price point for him. So first 3 fights went pretty well for us. Yeah. Felipe and Tafa was a really good fight. It just didn't end in a finish. How was the scoring on that, Matt? Because I saw
67, so not good.
Yeah, didn't think so. It was. I mean, they were slugging at the end there. I knew it wasn't going to be as good a scoring as it was entertaining. Edwards beat Wu, and I did talk up Edwards as the underdog, which was nice to see that come to fruition. I said you needed a ton of exposure to Dusko and Soriano, and I told you not to sleep on that D3 wrestler from Wartburg College, and he got the first round knockout, which was awesome as the underdog. So did he make optimal, Soriano?
Soriano did make optimal, actually. I think it's the second highest. Yeah, second highest in the card.
Let's go. Beautiful. I said I didn't like Buckley at his price. I said I didn't like him as price.
or at all. That would have been nice to say.
Or at all, which was great. Anytime we fade a super heavy favorite, Matt, and he loses, that's awesome. We crushed it. You know what I mean? But I'll always, especially as the self-proclaimed punt king, I will always be sad that I didn't take the punt. You know what I mean? Even though it's like, we did great fading the heavy favorite, but the fact we didn't have Alessio is that hit home a little bit.
For what it's worth, you did yellow. Green, or you did yellow like this. You didn't full fade it.
Yeah, which is true. What did Alessio score?
A lot. 104. 104.83.
At how much? 7,000 or something?
Yeah, 68. So.
Oh.
Yeah, that broke the slate.
My heart. Yeah, that was a slate breaker. So that's the one. That one stopped us from all takedowns and anything like that. But I mean, again, 6,800 usually doesn't. But I will say the next one, again, 6,900 for I think it was 6,900 right for Li Jinglang. Yep, that I mean
scored higher.
I told you fade pawns and I told you hammer Lee at that. So my sub 7K punt won there, and I'm guessing he made the optimal as well.
Yep.
Beautiful. So that was big leverage there. Very happy with that pick. Thought Condit and Brown would end in a finish, and it didn't, but it was still high octane enough to make the optimal for Condit, which is great.
The talk of the town next here.
Yep, talk of the town. Then, I mean, I tried to tell everyone, Matt, what I say, stop sleeping on Max. I mean, Cater came in as the heaviest owned guy on the slate as the underdog. And I try to say Max was just, I love Cater. I mean, it's tough for me to go against a Massachusetts guy, but, Max is 29 years old. Everyone's like, Max, I mean, he's kind of in the twilight of his career. I'm like, dude, he's younger than me. Like, I don't understand. Like, he's still so good. And he put together, I mean, he broke the slate. And he broke the slate as a favorite, which is not something that usually happens. You have to do something, above and beyond the Call of Duty. And you can read the stats, Matt. I'll let you take this one.
Holloway. So in his last, they actually don't have it updated in front of me, so I'm gonna have to whiff on that one.
Okay, well, he had about 687 significant strikes. Just kidding.
That's
I don't know
insane.
how many, but it was ridiculous.
Well, I can tell you
how many
this.
he actually had.
He scored over 200 points on DK, so that's all you need to know.
How many?
209. That's a real. I'm not kidding. Like if you 209.
That's the most I've ever heard of. The most before that I think was Merab Dvalishvili, and he got 170 with a trillion takedowns.
Yeah.
So he broke the significant. I think it broke the. Let me see this. I'm looking at the records right now. It was absolutely crazy. They broke all the records, literally all the records. So significant strike landed. This is I don't know. I'm trying to say this is combined. I just want to see Holloway. I don't care about Cater. He didn't do that much. It was to be honest. But I think he landed 290 significant strikes, if I remember, which is just, or something like that. It's just bananas. But yeah, absolutely snapped. So let's move on to this next event. That was crazy. That was probably, I will say, Cater is maybe the top.
One last point before we move on. So when we talked about this in the video, Kevin, Qatar was slightly higher owned than Holloway, which I thought was absolutely insane because it was strictly because of his price tag, and per the leverage sheet, he was the most overweight, over-owned anyway, at 44.2%. The ownership did adjust closer to the lock. Holloway was slightly higher owned, which we now understand why. But at the time of the video, I said, guys, this just does not make sense. Qatar, yes, he's a slight underdog, but $7,300 is just pushing up that ownership. You just talk about this in terms of raw ownership, and it just did not make sense. That being said, our Patreon members should have been completely overweight on Holloway, and I know a lot of people were, but Qatar just made for that cash build. So combined wise, these guys still scored over 260 points, Kevin. That's insane. In a stack.
That's all you can ask for.
That's all you can ask for, right? So the cash stack that we talked about last time, I know one person in the comments was roasting us for saying don't stack fights ever. Yeah, well, if you stack this fight, you probably cash in every single double up, and I'm sorry for that person. Hopefully we never see you again. Sayonara. But come on, guys, that was the most obvious cash stack by far. I think the most obvious one we've seen this far, Kevin.
Oh yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, no, that was very obvious, and I agree 100%, Matt. And that's I mean, look at one guy broke the slate. I mean, that's what happens. All you need is the winner to score, a pretty damn good night, 130, and then the loser to keep somewhat pace, Cater did, of even though he got the crap kicked out of him, he still got 50 points, something like that.
He still got 53, which is, I will take that for $7,300.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So crazy
for cash lines, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on, we got the 14 fight slate coming up here. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting one, man. I think there's cash games potential. I think there's GPP potential.
Yeah.
I mean, our biggest night ever, we talked about, was on a 14 or 15 fight slate, where we had the most success. So big leverage here. This is how you get your big your big tourney takedowns right here. So don't be afraid to go for it in this one. Make a bunch of lineups, and if you want a little bit higher risk, high reward, this is the slate. So that being said, let's move to the fights. Crap ton of fights, like I said, Matt. So we're gonna run through them, and I will say there's a lot of ones that I'm gonna say are good fights. I'm not gonna make my love list just because I got to limit our play pool somehow, or at least limit my love list. But that doesn't mean don't take them. I mean, there's a lot of good fights on this card. So let's start out with Victoria Leonardo versus Manon Fiort. Leading off with a women's fight that has a really high finish chance as far as things go at plus 140. That's pretty high for women's fights. I mean, usually you see them dance around that plus 200 mark consistently. I can get behind that, as Leonardo is a solid finisher and has both losses by way of finish. And Manon lives up to her nickname, the Beast. You get look at her; she looks like a beast. Google her if you haven't.
Okay.
And she has 4 knockouts over 5 wins. So neither of these ladies have fought in the UFC map, but they're making their debut. So it's like it's a little volatile. It isn't a bad fight to target by any means. On a smaller slate, I would probably consider it a lot more. I'm just looking from a standpoint of like, all right, there's 14 fights on the slate. Will it make the optimal? Probably not, but I mean, it's still live. Leonardo's not a bad punt, and I mean, as again, Manon is making her debut as well. It's still a plus 140. Like, it's a really good finish chance for a girls fight, but it's still not a good finish chance. Just
in general, sure.
Speaking generally, exactly.
Yellow light, green light, red light.
Yellow.
Yellow.
For sure.
Okay, so let me go ahead and look at the top here. Ownership, you guys know I give you a benchmark. Anything under about 31% that we're looking at, Kevin, on a 14-fight slate is going to be a GPP option. Both of these girls fall below that mark. Manon, I think it's how you pronounce it, 22.4%. Victoria at 15.6%. So both of them are very low owned.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I like that. That's, I mean, there's leverage there. That's going to make me keep it yellow. You know what I mean? Especially as we talked about, this is a slate where you can make a lot of money. So definitely keep that yellow. Moving on, we got Umar Nurmagomedov. Khabib's my favorite fighter of all time. I still can't say his last name.
That was a good attempt.
I mean, but it's Khabib's cousin, so I should have that better. So yeah, really, I mean, I love Umar. We're seeing the debut of his cousin, and I can't friggin' wait. This guy's gonna be a problem. That people say he's the second coming of Khabib. He's making his UFC debut. He's 12-0 and 4-0 AMI, so undefeated throughout his career. Also,
interesting. I want to hear your take on this then, because the ownership's interesting.
I am very curious because I'll tell you this. I don't doubt him. I think he's the best probably cash games option on the slate because he should smoke everything. He's making his UFC debut, this is the highest I would ever say I've seen a price and a favorite for someone making their UFC debut. But again, he's undefeated through his career. He's got the Khabib aura about him. He's coming out of AKA. I've been watching tape on this kid for like years, Matt. I Am the Bay on YouTube always shares AKA training clips. I love watching Umar and Khabib train, and it's just I think he's pretty set for a lock to win at 9,500. So if you're going to look for a pay up option, I'm going to say there. I would probably avoid him in GPP just because, dude, you have to come out like literally like touch gloves, takedown, punch him 8 times, like, you know what I mean? To hit 9,500, like,
or
it's just
or
ridiculous.
Pull a Holloway anyway.
Yeah, or pull a Holloway, but this is a 3-rounder. It's not doable. I don't think it's doable. So what are we looking at here?
It'll be interesting. I'd say this, Kevin. If there's a lot of upsets on this card, he could easily make the optimal, right? Just straight up scoring wise, right? He could, assuming there's a lot of underdogs that fit into this optimal lineup. That being said, 28.4%, which is actually relatively lower than I expected, which is going to make for some very contrarian builds. I know I talked to TJ and I also talked to you about this. Sometimes the best lineups are the most contrarian type of lineups. So if you guys want to shove a lot of these pump plays that have a fighter's chance in there, and then Umar actually gets a good amount of points, I'd say 120 plus points, he could easily make for a very contrarian build. 28.4% is in that GPP range, Kevin. So do you like him for GPPs now, or do you still prefer him for cash?
I mean, I think I still prefer him for cash, 100%. Just for the situation, and it's close enough to that cash line. But I'm not going to say fade for GPP. I mean, I think it is still really hard to hit that price point. But again, if other things go wrong, he doesn't need to hit a price point. He just needs to do better than. It's like that old saying,
right?
You hear that saying, like, if you're running from a bear, you only need to be faster than the slowest guy.
Yeah,
it's like it's the same thing. It's like you just got to outscore the worst guys who are
Which is why I said there's a lot of upsets that he could definitely have a chance to make the optimal.
And I agree. You make one of those weird $48,000 lineups where you take him and 3 punts and then 2 slight favorites, and it's like that could be the optimal. Very
easily could. Yeah, I think he's going to make for some good contrarian builds for sure. That being said, Sergey at 9%. So do you think he has a fighter's chance, or giving him 15% chance to win?
I think he has the worst chance on the card to win. I mean, he's making his UFC debut as well, which also helps the fact that Umar's making his. I mean, he's a good fighter on a different slate. I would actually probably look at him a little bit. I mean, he's got a good record. He's decent, but I'm buying into the if I lose my money on banking on Umar winning this fight, I can live with that.
Sure.
I'll take the -550 favorite.
All right, let's go ahead and move on then.
Moving on to Mike Davis versus Mason Jones. Panthers didn't make the playoffs, so Mike Davis made his transition. Now this is a different Mike Davis, but Davis is 1-1 in the UFC, 8-2 overall. Context is everything though, Matt, because he's 8-2. Mason Jones is 10-0, but there's a reason, Mike Davis at 8-2 is a pretty heavy favorite opposed to the undefeated guy. I completely agree with Davis being the favorite. His 2 losses, Matt, come to super talented guys in Gilbert Burns and Sadiq Youssef, who, again, very good guys. That doesn't really mean much to me if your 2 losses are them. It really doesn't. Mason has been perfect in his career. As I mentioned, he is making his UFC debut. This is a tough one. Plus 105 finish chance, so near even line on the finish chance here, Matt. But to be honest, I do think it's better than that, which is interesting to me. I almost think it should be like, favorite to be end in a finish. This fight's green for me, and the only reason this fight isn't making my love list is, again, there's 14 fights on the slate, and I need to limit it a little bit. Right. But I think it's a good fight. I'm actually very surprised that this doesn't have a better chance than not in Vegas's eyes to end in a finish. So I definitely will have a slight favorite towards Davis just for finish potential and winnability. But you want to take a punt. I say this every time, Matt. A guy with an undefeated career making his debut as a punt is never a bad idea. It's never a bad thing.
Well, it looks like people are putting their salary saving money here on Mason Jones, actually. So it's 22 factor, But here's the thing. The ownership on both these guys are actually very, very low. So straight up, I like both these guys for GPPs. I'll just start out by saying that. 22.8% on Mason Jones, but that's actually higher than Mike Davis at 20% ownership at $8,800. So the leverage potential here for Mike Davis is actually phenomenal. I really like him for leverage. And you said that just straight up from an eye test, this should end in a finish.
Yeah, I do believe so. And I like situations like this because you can take Mason Jones in some lineups and save you some salary, so you can really put together a good lineup. And say he wins, you're looking okay. You're also with the field, but then you can take Mike Davis in opposing lineups, and you're gonna have good leverage over the field. Like sometimes you see
very low.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like sometimes you'll see a crack in the armor, Matt, and it'll be like something will skew the public like that, like 10-0 versus 8-2. Like that might be that little thing that skews them, and people forget. It almost blinds them to the fact like this guy's still a minus 185 favorite. It's crazy. So not that Mason Jones can't win. I like Mason Jones, but yeah, that's one of those situations.
I like it.
I think. So let's move on to Francisco Figueiredo, another family guy. Another, we got Umar on here. We got the brother of Davison in this one, Matt, versus Jerome Rivera making his debut as well. So this is going to be a sick card, like low key. I mean, we got Umar making his debut. We got Francisco Figueiredo making his UFC debut. This is going to be interesting. Like his brother, he's a vicious fighter, good finisher. He's making, like I said, long-awaited UFC debut against Jerome Rivera. Very similar to the last fight we talked about. This fight is expected to go the distance like Mike Davis and Jones, but I don't quite agree with that. I think Francisco is a killer and has a lot of tools to finish this fight. Rivera is coming off a pretty rough UFC debut, Matt, where he was knocked out by Tyson Nam, who we'll actually talk about in a little bit. He's on this card as well, interestingly enough. But Rivera is a very good grappler, is a one-stripe brown belt, very talented. I think he might have trouble getting this, to the ground and grappling against another super talented jiu-jitsu practitioner like Francisco. We've seen how good the Figueiredos are, Brazilian jiu-jitsu themselves and grappling as a whole, wrestling, everything. I mean, I was very impressed with Davison's wrestling, and I'm not saying Francisco is Davison, but if he's training with him every day, he's probably pretty good in that department. That being said, I do think this is a green fight, Matt. Won't make my love list just like last one, same sort of reason. But both of these guys have good finish potential. Jerome Rivera is a very good grappler. Like I said, has a lot of submissions, so maybe he could catch him. And I think Francisco on his feet has a big advantage. So, I mean, and also, Matt, this is, love to see this. Guys have 6 losses combined between the two, and 5 have ended in finish. So these guys get finished. Love that.
Got it. Rivera at 8.2% ownership, which is actually the second lowest on the entire card, Kevin. So I'm assuming you like to hear that. And Figueiredo at 23.4%. So both of these guys, again, it looks like the first 4 fights, or first 4, sorry, I can't do math. First 4 fights here through the top of the card here. Very good for GPP all the way around. The ownership is low in general on these first 4.
It's definitely live. And I think it's because these ones have actually, I mean, those are 4 fights in a row technically that are all expected to end in a decision. Obviously one of those I would assume does not, at least. got to pick which one.
Sure.
And there are some ones on this card, Matt, that have, pretty high finish chances. So I think that's where we're seeing that ownership go. It's funny that it's telling me too, this is also a very spread card. Like when you said second lowest on the card for ownership at 8%, that's kind of high. That sounds like, one of the lowest ones on like a 10 card, 10 fight slate. You know what I mean? So that's pretty spread. But yeah, I don't mind that fight. Definitely don't hate it. All right. Moving on to one of those ones I'm talking about. I think this is going to carry some ownership, Matt. It's got a -215 finish chance. We got Dalcha versus Marcus Perez. Now, here's the thing. We just talked about how much I don't understand the finish chances being, what they were, thinking that it's a better chance to finish. I think this one has a worse chance to finish at -215. I swear it has something to do with Dalcha. He's got that, he looks like a unit. He does knock people out, but I think it's it's a little skewed there. It doesn't change the fact that he actually, has only finished like 50% of his opponents. So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. That being said, I do still expect it to end in a finish, gun to my head. I just don't think it's quite at -215. But Dalcha is good, 1-1 in the UFC, though it's very hard to tell his talent level because his loss is to Magomed Ankalaev, who we both know, Matt, is amazing. Absolutely nasty fighter. So that doesn't mean anything. You lost to him, doesn't really mean anything. And then his win is against Daquan Townsend, who is about the worst fighter I've ever seen in my life. he's 0-4 in the UFC.
You're saying we don't know anything about this guy.
Yeah, we don't know anything. Like his 2 UFC fights have shown me nothing. Townsend's 0-4 in the UFC. Awful. Perez is 2-4 in the UFC, but does have a solid submission game and is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I do see a path to victory there for him. It will make my love list. I think it does have a solid chance of making the optimal at that pricing. Not my favorite -215 finish chance of all time, but I do like it and should be one of many fun and potentially really good fights on this card.
Dalcha at 19.6% ownership. Marcus at 18.1%. So it's pretty split, Kevin. People are very indecisive about this, and it kind of is reflective in the salary here and also in the odds percentage. So very split decision here. It looks like Perez has a phenomenal upside in terms of leverage. So what are your thoughts here? If you had to pick one, I guess you are leaning towards Dalcha?
I don't know. I to be honest, I guess I really didn't have a stance on which one I like more. For this one, just because I see a path to victory for both guys. I will say I really like that ownership.
It's very appealing.
This was not my favorite GPP pick on the card. It was like for love list wise, it was one of my less favorite ones. It's creeping. I mean, that ownership is nice. That's juicy. I can't believe it's that low for this pricing and this finish chance. Yeah,
for sure. I completely agree with you. I think this is going to pop on our leverage sheet.
100%. So moving on, we got Mudarjee versus Zaruk Adashev. Interesting. I mean, if I talk bad about Adashev, Matt, I think I'll get flamed in the comments because I don't know if you remember this. Last time he fought, I said I didn't like him in his UFC debut. He was 3-1 as a pro, and I was like, that's not really enough. And I think it was him or his mom or his girlfriend or someone commented a full novel, not saying my analysis of him was wicked poor. So it happens because
he didn't
unapologetically
give us his favorite yogurt flavor or something.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Well, your boy got slept in 30 seconds. So, but I just call him how I see him, Matt. No bias towards anyone. That being said, I really still don't understand why he's still here. He's 3-2 as a pro, and no ill will towards the guy, but 3-2 as a pro doesn't really get you, a lot of calls from the UFC, especially when you got knocked out in 30 seconds in your debut. So I honestly, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that person comes back and absolutely burns me in the comments. That'd be hilarious. But bury me if he wins. But I just don't see that happening. I mean, we're looking at a -450 finish, -450 favorite for Sue.
For what it's worth, the community here is amazing because I think after he flamed you, I think I checked back on that comment, and then I think one of the comments I got, or one of the responses to that comment got like 10 likes, like after the fight. So people were just coming back. They were waiting for it too.
Yeah. People know I'm about as unbiased as I get. If I see someone and I think they're good, I think they're good. I think they're not good, they're not good. So it just is the way it is. But yeah, we have a great community here. I love a support system here. But yeah, again, this is why, I mean, Sue is 9,300 at -450, and Adashev is +325 at 6,900. I'd be very surprised if this one to break the slate. Sue is one of my top GPP pay up options, Matt. Absolute killer. This dude is terrifying. Pretty expensive price, but which I don't love, but he still has 12 finishes of his 13 wins. So I like him a lot more to finish than say Umar, and at $200 less. So I definitely don't hate that. Very high favorite and very his 12 finishes out of 13 wins is crazy, and 11 of those have been knockouts, Matt. So this dude hits hard. So I definitely like Sue for this one.
This is as skewed as the ownership gets between two people, at least what I've seen. Anyway, Sue's at 38.7% ownership, Kevin, which is actually the second highest on the entire card. So definitely love that. $9,300. It looks to be that's where people are paying up for. Sue at $9,300. Adashev at 4.6%, which is the lowest on the card. I know as much hate as we give him. Do you see any leverage potential there?
I mean, he's one of the most perplexing careers I've seen, Matt. I don't know how. I mean, he was 0-1. That's how he started his career, 0-1, and then Bellator called him up and was like, "Yeah, that's good enough. Join." I was like, "What?" Like now he's in Bellator, like at 0-1, and then he won a couple in Bellator. So I mean, clearly the guy can fight a bit, but I don't know. I mean, just 3-2.
Just say no. You can say no, Kevin.
No,
okay.
Thank you.
All right, green, yellow, or red light.
Green for Sue, 100%.
Got it.
Even at that ownership.
I'll leave Adashev alone just because his ownership's so low.
Yep. Just don't hurt him anymore.
Yeah.
Don't even red light him. Just no light.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Ricky Simone versus Gaetano Perello. I'm a little perplexed with this one, Matt. Ricky's a good wrestler and a solid fighter at 4-2 in the UFC. 2 quality losses as well. I think he goes in the cash column. 9,400 is crazy. It's crazy. I think he should win, and this is the 3rd highest favorite on the slate in Ricky. I do think that his opponent Perello making his UFC debut helps that, and it is a little frightening. I mean, I don't like seeing this, Matt. Like Perello, UFC debut, has some losses, whatever. 14 finishes of his 15 wins, though. Like this guy's dangerous. That sucks. I hate seeing that against a cash line guy, but I don't know. The wrestling and submission potential for Simone also gives him some upside against a newcomer. I mean, if he puts on a wrestling clinic at 9,400, like we talked about, Matt, I don't care what your price tag is. Yeah. If you're someone who has wrestling clinic potential,
those guys you
can break the slate.
They're going to break the slate, right?
Like we've seen Morab at 175 points. We've seen, we watched Duran win the other day at $7,300, get 110, 20 points, whatever it was. You know what I mean? So it does scare me a little bit. It does scare me a little bit. What is the ownership looking like on Ricky?
Ricky is actually the 5th highest on the card, 33.5%. It looks like people are going to be choosing between Sue and Simon from what the ownership looks like to pay up, or if they're paying up for both, they're going bottom of the barrel. I don't know if you like any of these bottom of the barrel price tags. I haven't seen any that you love yet. And then Perello is down here at 10% ownership, almost on the dot, 9.9. So, yeah. What are your thoughts there?
You know what? That was the one I didn't have anything in. I just want to hear your ownership for.
And you're writing it down as we speak. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just put him in my cash game lineup. I just did, exactly. We're going to put him core because that one I needed to hear ownership on. I'm glad
he's making it in there. Yep.
Okay, cool. So we'll put him there. That makes sense. I guess there's some GPP upside. Like I said, he puts a clinic on 9,400. Wouldn't expect to make the optimal, but I mean, if we're talking him, Sue, or Umar, Sue is definitely in the best position to make the optimal for his price and finish ability. Mm-hmm. That being said, all 3 are still alive, unfortunately.
Still alive, right.
But moving on, we got Omari Akhmedov versus Tom Breese. I'd probably avoid Omari for the most part in GPPs, Matt. His last 5 wins and a draw have been by way of decision. I don't think he puts together enough wrestling and striking volume through his decisions to make that viable for tourneys and GPPs. I do think he's a good fighter, and he's a good winner, though the last fight with Weidman, I don't know if you remember that one, he was so unimpressive. He just looked gassed, he looked tired, he looked bad. I thought Weidman looked pretty bad too. I thought they both looked bad. Breeze, on the other hand, is a knockout artist, and Omari has been finished in 4 of his last 5 losses, Matt.
Interesting.
So I think Breeze, that's very interesting. I think Breeze is very live in this one. Let's greenlight this one for Breeze, Matt. And if you got 7.5K in the bank and you want to take a shot in an underdog winner, I think Omari's actually live. Like I said, he's a pretty damn good winner, Matt. So terrible score, but pretty good winner. So if you
they're giving him a 39% chance to win, so it's still not bad.
That's not bad at all. So at 70, and that's pretty good for 7,500. So if you got cash games money and you want to throw them in at 7,500 for a win, try it. I don't care. Okay. I think that's not a bad idea. But no love list either way. But I think Breeze is definitely the more GPP guy here.
Okay. Ownership's low on both these guys, so you love to hear that from Tom Breeze. 20.8%, and Amari's at 16.9%. So pretty low on both these guys.
Breeze is going to dance on that GPP love list, man.
Yeah, it looks like him. At that ownership is definitely
pushed in at that ownership. I mean, he's just has so much knockout potential.
Yeah.
And I love that awkward price tag. 8,700 is beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
I always think 87 and 88 is always the most awkward one. People don't know what to do. It's like it's not quite pay up enough where you're like locked in for a win, but it's like, I love that price.
A ton of upside still.
ton of upside. That's where you make your money. No, I think big leverage is, Matt, and I'll just give a little tidbit to people here. I think big leverage is where, like, say you have $9,200 on the table or something, and where you want to, like, and this is where we see, we see so many times, Matt, MMA, the optimal lineups are 49,400, 49,600, 49,000 flat, sometimes 48,000 something. And
the last one's 48,200. So yeah,
there you go. And so, like, if you're gonna make multiple lineups where you would take a Sue, say you have 9,300 in the bank and you're gonna take Sue or Simone or something at 9,400,
spend down,
pivot, take Tom Breeze, leave 700 on the table, and that could be the one. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, that's the kind of stuff that works. So
Preaching to
as
the
long as
choir.
you're making multiple lineups. Exactly. I know you know that, Matt. You're all about that.
You were saying it for me and not the public? Oh no.
Yeah. Like, come on, Matt. Moving on, we got Lerone Murphy versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. Murphy's a beast, man. Good power. So is Douglas Silva. I mean, Silva has a silly 19 knockouts of his 26 wins. I think both sides are live here, and I'm actually a little surprised at the line. Minus 305 for Lerone Murphy. I mean, that's a little high on a guy who's, I mean, I think Douglas is just really good. I mean, technically, Murphy is undefeated still. He's 1-0-1 in the UFC. I think he's like 9-0-1 career. The odds makers and DraftKings pricers know, DSA has beaten, I mean, I hope they know he's beaten Marlon Vera and Renan Barão, and 2 of his 3 losses, Matt, have been to like Rob Font and Peter Yan. So it's like, I really don't understand the line here. It's really weird. And also, Douglas Silva, Matt, went on a 22-0 6-year unbeaten streak. So I think this guy knows how to fight a little bit at 7K.
Sounds like it, yeah.
I think this is kind of obvious where I'm heading with this one. I really think he's an awesome punt option at 7K. That being said, I do like both sides about equally. I don't hate Murphy. I think at 9,200, you can take a shot. It says a minus 155 finish chance. So I don't want you to get skewed and think this is one of those ones where, like last week, where I was like, screw, Santiago, take Lee, and just don't touch the favorite. I think Lerone Murphy is very live in this too. It's just at 7K. I mean, Douglas is a killer. So both will make my list.
Murphy at 32.5%, so he is 6th on the list, which is right on that cash GPP cusp. So $9,200. It looks like people are going to have to make some decisions up in that 9K range, Kevin. Definitely some big decisions. Douglas, 12% ownership, very low. You love to hear that, especially one of your favorite punt options. So, obvious leverage there.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. 12%. Yeah, so I think that's the 4th lowest. Yeah, 4th lowest on the card.
Surprised that's not higher. I don't know. I just got a feeling. But I like the way you put that, Matt. You're going to have to make some choices here. There's a lot of pay up options here. So there is one coming
for cash anyway. You're going to make a lot of good decisions.
Yes. There's another pay up option up top here around that price tag, but that one's an easy fade. So, but moving on, we got Matt Schnell versus Tyson Nam. I usually don't like flyweights to finish, Matt. Flyweights just don't finish as much. They don't hit as hard, obviously, as some of the heavier guys. But this is the matchup we want to see. An elite grappler with stand-up woes like Matt Schnell against an elite striker like Tyson Nam. I will say, gun to my head, I like Nam here. He has never been submitted, and that dude cracks at that weight. I will say he has been slept a couple times, so who knows if Schnell can catch him just right. I don't know if Schnell has that really stand-up pedigree, though, to hang with him. Without a finish, Schnell is a miserable score, so you're really hoping as the underdog he does catch a submission to make that optimal. And I don't think stand-up is super great, so I don't think he catches Nam, but maybe, who knows. But I do think both guys are live here, and Nam is definitely someone I like a little more just because of his knockout potential. That dude absolutely cracks. All
right, so are you greenlighting this?
Yep.
Okay, so Nam is actually at 26.7%, very low. Schnell at 19.8, so we'll round up to 20. Very low, again, on both these guys. More GPP love list, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually surprised. I think Nam is super live in this.
So let me just kind of sit back and digest what I'm seeing here, Kevin, at least when I'm sitting here looking at all the stats. Nobody is touching anybody below 9K, at least in terms of ownership. And when I mean nobody, I don't actually mean nobody. I mean less people are. Take your chances. Mid to like 8 to 9K range, guys. That's going to be the sweet spot. I know Kevin just talked about it, but especially now that I'm seeing the ownership. Imagine if one of these 9K guys get slept or they lose. the doors are wide open for potential here in that range. Just wide open. Now, if they all win, yeah, it's not that great. But one of these guys statistically should lose, Kevin. One of these guys should.
100%.
Yeah, if you add up all these percentage chances, I think it's like a 70% chance on one of these guys to actually lose. So, guys, I'm telling you right now, if you're making a lineup, the soft spot here is between 8 to 9K. So definitely love that.
I like that. I really like that Nam pick. I mean, the more I look at it, I mean, it's Schnell has been. I mean, he's really
like both of them.
Fighter.
But
and he could steal it with his wrestling or grappling and just slow the pace down. But I do like him for that reason. But I'm just like, he's been knocked out 3 times in his. He has 3 UFC losses. They're all knockout, not TKO. They're all just like straight knockouts. Yeah, and that's terrible going up against Tyson Nam. So I don't know. I'm skewing myself. I do like both. I really do like both. Mm-hmm. But Tyson Nam is scary.
Yeah, ownership low on both these guys.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Moving on, we got Roxanne Modafferi versus Viviana Rajo. Easy fade here. I mean, we have 14 fights, Matt. I would probably fade this on a 10-fight slate anyway. Roxanne is so freaking tough to finish as the underdog and always just poses enough of a problem to be annoying for her opponent. She's tough. She's gritty. She hangs around. She's just annoying. This is a 14-fight slate. As I said, got to fade something. This is a plus 210 finish chance. And, we got a 9.1K favorite in Vivian who doesn't have enough, volume, doesn't score well enough in a decision to really make me think she's not going to need a finish to, make that price point. And again, very, very better chance than not she doesn't finish.
All right, we'll just move on past this. The ownership is also 24.5% and 17.5, which is actually relatively high when you look at all the ownerships compared to everybody else. What's that?
I said, I hope that lands. My only concern is stupid friggin' 80-fight, 50-year-old Roxanne comes in and just steals one. I don't know if you remember, Matt. She beat Macy Barber, which was top 3 upsets of UFC history.
Was that one? Yeah.
That was that one. Yep. Yeah. And so I just hope nothing like that happens. I hope Vivian wins a boring decision.
I mean, still, she only, if we talk about an upset, when she did upset her, she only scored 89.5 points. Just relative to the rest of the slate, I think the top 6 winners should score over 89 points.
She scored 89 points against Macy Barber.
Yep, 89.
Macy Barber tore her ACL that fight too, so
that's pretty embarrassing.
That's pretty embarrassing.
Hey, she can't terrible. Move, and you still can't punch her.
You can't finish. Wow. All right, so I feel a little better, I guess. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't know she scored that low.
Yeah, 89.5.
Moving on, we got Ike Villanueva versus Vinicius Moreira. Favorite fight on the card, Matt. For targeting for sure. Sans maybe the main just because it's the main, but I do love this fight. Not every day you see a favorite, Matt. A favorite with a record of 17-11 and 10 losses by way of finish. I love it.
Nice.
And then you have, on the other hand,
so this should finish, right?
This should finish. I mean, combined, Matt.
Okay, you're gonna love to hear it. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, I can't wait. These guys are 0-6 in the UFC, Matt. All by way of finish. All 6 of their combined losses. These guys suck, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite fight. 100% exposure, guaranteed.
Wow.
These guys are miserable. I mean, so it's awesome. They have. So I'm just a couple more stats for you if you're not sold yet. Ready? They have a combined 15 losses between them. 14 have been finishes. Okay. 14 have been finishes. Ready? Lastly, they have a combined 26 wins between them, 23 finishes.
Yeah.
So these guys are just glass cannons, and it's an 8,208K price range. So
someone's going to die, but it's not because they're good. It's because they suck.
Someone's going to die. Yep. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, Ike is actually a pretty heavy favorite at -145 for being 8,200. That's actually pretty high. It doesn't matter. I'm just probably gonna have even exposure and just watch someone die, like you said.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, here's the funny part, Kevin. When I looked at these ownerships, I was like, okay, this has to have a high decision chance, and I was looking at the decision chance, and they're both extremely low. So I thought there was an error. And then when you said it should finish, I was like, holy cow! I guess people just don't like people. It's funny because casuals just don't like to watch people that suck. So I guess that's why the ownership's so low. I get 20.3%, okay, and Castro at 11.9%. Kevin, that combined wise, yeah. Guys, Kevin just said before I even gave him the ownership, he's having 100% exposure to this. And now with the ownership this low, I'm assuming he's going to go into the Discord immediately right now and spam, please just take both sides of these.
We're going to talk about some stuff in the Discord, how we're going to shift this and how we're going to move people around too.
$8,200, 80 or $8,000 for both these guys. I'm assuming that's why, is because the prices are just so up in the air. You like it's a pick'em fight, right, Kevin? It really is.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's why.
So I do. I mean, when I was looking at Ike, I was like, I mean, I can't believe he's a favorite. Then I was looking at Vinicius. I was like, I can't believe this guy's fighting. Like, they're both so, I don't know. Yeah, they're both not good. So
love to hear
definitely
that.
love this one. Love to hear it. Exactly. Moving on to a fight between two better guys for the co-main. We got Warley Alves, really good grappler who actually he submitted Kobe Covington. You know, pretty impressive win on his notch on his belt. Kind of crazy. 7-4 in the UFC, won the Ultimate Fighter, so pretty cool. Really good fighter. Lazez, on the other hand, is a knockout artist. I do like the contrast of styles in this fight, Matt. I think this fight is live and lower end GPP. It will make my list, but I do see decision potential in scenarios. I can see it in my head playing out that way, but especially after Lazez's last performance, I can't believe he didn't finish Al Hassan. That was weird for me. But honestly, not much to say about the co-main, Matt. Pretty cut and dry. I think it has potential. Won't jump into it with 100% exposure, but I will take pieces of this and I'll make my list.
Yeah, so the ownership is actually on the borderline here. Lazez at 31%, so it's technically in that GPP range. And you said you don't love this, right?
No, it's on my list.
Okay, so you want me to green light both these guys?
Yeah, it makes my list. It's still minus 155 finish chance. I see some decision potential, but I also see knockout potential. I like the contrast of styles. Warley Alves is a good grappler, very good submission artist. Lazez is a stand-up guy. So, I see. Lazez will make my GPP list, and then Alves will make my punt list.
Got it. So it is cut and dry. 16.3% for Alves. Let's go ahead and move on to the very last fight.
Main event, 5-round main, kind of a weird one, Matt. I like Neil Magny as a person. He's a great guy and was all over him in his last fight. I don't know if you remember against, I almost said Tom Lawler.
It was,
oh my God,
it was
Robbie
Lawler.
Robbie Lawler. And so I loved him in that one. Took him, did absolutely awesome. He helped us cash very easily in that one. But I'll tell you this, Matt. When I need to go to bed at night and I'm tired and I just can't sleep, I don't take Ambien. I watch Neil Magny highlights. He is the most boring fighter in the world, bro. He is so boring to watch. Guy, he has a 41% finish rate, which I think is like 15 to 20% less than the average male fighter. Chiesa can be boring sometimes as well too, but I do like Chiesa a little bit more. To watch, he just brings a little bit funky submissions and good pressure. Knowing these guys and their styles, I think this fight does have a good chance to hit the ground, especially seeing Neil Magny, kind of put on a wrestling clinic against Robbie Lawler. And, Chiesa, that's what he does. He's a grappler. So I think this fight has some main event stack potential and cash. It has a better chance than not to not finish. And I get why. It could be a low octane fight, Matt. I do see potential there. But it is 5 rounds. So
this has a chance to not make the optimal being the main event.
Yes.
Huh? Okay.
Yep, and at 14. So I'll tell you right now, Matt, this is how I prefaced it. Okay. You might want to stack or grab one of these guys in cash. I would grab one in cash 100% and maybe stack. In GPPs and tourneys, if you're making multiple lineups, which you should be if you want to be successful, making multiple lineups for tourneys, I would tell you to do this. I'd have some lines that fade this fight completely. 100% would have lines that fade this main. Very easily could not make the optimal. I would have, I wouldn't say I'm targeting this fight 100% as I just told you to fade some lines, but of my exposure, I would go 30% Magny in some of my lines and then 70% Chiesa. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So I would fade in some lines, take about, and then the rest, split your exposure in the ones you're going to target this fight, split your exposure 30% Magny, 70% Chiesa. I think it's the best way to do it. In terms of, who has the chance to score better, who has a chance. I mean, Magny can still make optimal very easily at 8,300 at, in a 5-round fight. He can still do it pretty easily, Matt. So that's why you don't want to fade him completely.
All right, here's my stance. Ready?
Yep.
14 fights. Main event has the very first Magny. Listen, has the highest owned on the card. The main event does 41.6. The third highest is also with Chiesa, 34% owned. So they are the first and third highest owned on the card. Kevin, our biggest, most profitable win in Discord has come from your UFC, by the way, your UFC Patreon user. He asked you some questions before the slate started, and you told him to fade the main event. I believe he had He faded the main event completely and took, it was a smaller slate too. But if there's an opportunity to fade the main event again and win big to take down, however much you did take, I think it was $100,000. Now is the time to do it, because these two guys are so inflated in ownership, it's unreal, especially given a 14 fight slate. I will say that with confidence. I will go to the grave if I'm wrong. I don't care. I took a good shot here. I think 41.6% and 34% is way too high owned, especially the decision chance is so high. What's the finish chance here?
It's actually, I mean, even in a 5-rounder, it's a better chance. It's plus 120 to go to a decision.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. I'm telling you, Matt, and it was about a 14 fight slate when we had that big takedown.
Oh, was it 14? Okay.
Yeah. And so that
well, there you go.
I was gonna say, that
writing's on the wall now. So
I was like, I know where Matt's going with this one. That ownership's crazy too. I mean, like I said, so Matt, what are you thinking? You think 50? Say you're making multiple lines. Do you think 50% fade?
Well, honestly, if you want me to be completely honest, I'm fading altogether. No, listen, in some tourneys. But yeah, if I'm running 150 lineups, I'm not getting too crazy. If it looks like 75, literally exactly 75% of the lineups are going to have one or the other of these fighters, yeah, I think 50% is a good ballpark range. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to be super aggressive, yeah, you fade this completely in some of your tournaments. And I think you do that in the single entry. I really think you could get away with it, especially in a big single entry GPP. But yeah, I mean, especially, Kevin, looking at all these other fights that you absolutely love. I mean, it just, the writing's on the wall. It really is. I think this is obvious.
100%.
And again, like, in order to win GPPs, guys, you have to be super aggressive. You have to be.
You do. That's how we got big.
That's with every sport. Yep. All right. 100%. Anyway, let's bring it all together now. Let's go over the core fights. Let's go over GPP and also some punt options.
Yep. Absolutely. So moving to the core fights, I got Umar undefeated, should be a lock to win. I got Ricky, as we talked about, ownership is cash reflective and should win. So I do like that. Magny and Chiesa, we just talked about stack potential. Matt, this fight has stack potential, fade potential, individual potential for cash and GPP, all the above. So it's an interesting fight for sure. Very interesting main event. I love the fact it has fade potential.
Yeah.
Again, could make the optimal, but love the fade potential. Moving to GPPs, Dalcha and Perez, solid finish chance, obvious path to victory for both guys. We got Sue, crazy finish ability and very heavy favorite. Solid GPP pay up and spend up option there. Leron Murphy, big power and another good spend up option for GPP. So I do like Leron Murphy there. Schnell versus Nam, obvious path to a finish for both guys with a little more favoritism towards Nam. I'm just talking myself into Nam a lot on this video. But Schnell's live too. Villanueva and Moreira, biggest target on the card. I mean, that's it, Matt. The friggin' ownership. What is going on?
Yeah.
That's like you said, Matt. You'll live and die by that sword. Like you'll take that on the chin if that's if it doesn't go that way. That's mine. That's my version. Is I'll take that if that doesn't make the optimal. There's no scenario where I wouldn't take this every single time.
Yeah,
this is
at
the
least
right
both
choice.
Sides.
Exactly. This is the right choice. Whether it works or not, it's the right choice. Lazez, good power. Decent pay up option, a little cheaper than some of the others. So I think what was Lazez, 9K? Yeah, 9K.
Yep, 9K.
A little bit less than the other ones, the 93s and the 92s and of the world. And then punts, Douglas Silva, crazy power and is a really good fighter. Very surprised that line is the way it is. And then like we talked about, Warley Alves, strong grappling ability and a solid matchup for him. So I like that.
All right. Well, we gave a lot of opinions on this. It is almost 50 minutes long, so hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you guys are watching it tonight, please do slide into that Discord. $20 a month gets you all of that and so much more. You get to chat to Kevin all day long. Also, keep in mind the slate does start at 9 a.m. With all that being said, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification button, of course, smash that like button for all of our future MMA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.